The provocation. Humanity's introduction to the galactic community had been less than welcoming. We weren't invited. We stumbled in, like a drunk crashing a dinner party. The established species, with their millennia of interstellar relations, looked down on us as primitive upstarts. Noisy, emotional, unpredictable. But they tolerated us because we were useful. Humans had a knack for engineering solutions that the more methodical species overlooked. We were innovative because we had to be. Our ships weren't as advanced, our weapons not as powerful. So we compensated with creativity. The Vorax hegemony hated us the most. Six-limbed reptilians with carapaces that could deflect small arms fire, they dominated nearly 30 star systems through technological superiority and uncompromising aggression. To them, humans were an evolutionary mistake, mammals that should have stayed on their wet little planet. Captain Chen, we're receiving the coordinates for the rendezvous. Lieutenant Adeyemi reported, his dark eyes focused on the holographic display. Captain Maya Chen nodded, her weathered face revealing nothing. At 53, she'd spent 30 years in the United Earth Defense Fleet, navigating both space and the treacherous waters of interspecies politics. Confirmed. The Vorax delegation will meet us at the neutral station in the Proxima Centauri system, she said, studying the tactical display of their ship, the UES Resilience. Inform command we're proceeding as planned. The mission was straightforward on paper. Earth had proposed a non-aggression pact with the Vorax after nearly a decade of border skirmishes and resource disputes. The hegemony had, surprisingly, agreed to discussions. It was Maya's job to represent humanity in these talks, to ensure Earth and her colonies weren't backed into an unfavorable position. Captain, said Commander Jackson, her XO, voice lowered as he approached her chair on the bridge. Intelligence suggests this might be a trap. The Vorax fleet movements don't match their diplomatic overtures. Maya nodded almost imperceptibly. I'm aware, Commander. But orders are orders. We show up, we talk, we maintain our dignity as representatives of Earth. What she didn't say, what only she and a handful of others knew, was that humanity wasn't walking into this blind. The Resilience dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Proxima Centauri system, precisely at the coordinates provided. The neutral station hummed against the backdrop of stars, its rotating rings glinting in the light of the red dwarf star. And surrounding it were 7 Vorax battlecruisers. Well, Maya said dryly, that's quite the welcoming committee for a peace talk. The comms officer's console lit up. Incoming transmission from the Vorax command ship. Captain. On screen. The view screen filled with the image of Supreme Commander Zextar, his scaled face dominated by vertical pupils and a mouth full of serrated teeth. Captain Chen, the Vorax commander hissed, mandibles clicking with what humans had learned was amusement. How fortunate that you arrived on schedule. The hegemony has reconsidered its position on peace talks. Maya's expression remained neutral. Has it now? Interesting timing, Commander Zextar. Indeed, the Hegemony Council has determined that humanity represents an unacceptable evolutionary regression in galactic affairs. Your species' continued expansion threatens the natural order. We cannot allow such chaos to persist. Maya leaned forward slightly. I see. And the battlecruisers. They are here to ensure you understand the seriousness of our position. The hegemony demands humanity's immediate withdrawal from all colonies beyond your solar system and the surrender of all FTL technology to Vorax oversight. Commander Jackson tensed beside her. Captain, they've activated weapons systems and are moving to surround us. Maya nodded, seemingly unconcerned. Commander Zextar, surely you realize Earth will not agree to these terms. The Vorax commander's mandibles spread in what passed for a smile among his kind. We anticipated your refusal, Captain. That is why we have prepared a demonstration. Your ship will be destroyed as an example, and within the next solar day, simultaneous strikes will begin against all major human settlements outside your home system. Maya allowed herself a small smile. You know, Commander, There's an old saying on Earth: never throw a punch unless you're absolutely certain they don't have a knife at your throat. Or in cruder terms, don't sucker punch someone unless you're certain they don't have a knife to your balls. The Vorax commander's expression shifted, confusion, then irritation. Your primitive metaphors are irrelevant, human. You are outgunned, outmaneuvered, and have no reinforcements within light years. That's where you're wrong, Commander. Maya tapped her console. Authorization Chen Alpha 73. Execute protocol demicals. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, throughout the system, dozens of signals began broadcasting simultaneously. Captain, Lieutenant Edeyemi reported, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. The autonomous defense platforms are coming online. All 23 of them. Commander Zextar's reptilian features contorted with shock. What treachery is this? Not treachery, Commander. Preparation. Maya stood, straightening her uniform. For the past 5 years, while you've been pushing at our borders and testing our defenses, we've been quietly seeding every system of strategic importance with autonomous defense platforms. Stealth technology developed by those chaotic, unpredictable human engineers you so despise. On the tactical display, small triangles appeared around each Vorax vessel, miniature unmanned craft, each carrying enough firepower to cripple a battlecruiser. You see, Commander, humans learned a long time ago that it's not about having the biggest stick. It's about making sure that if someone hits you, they go down too. Mutually assured destruction, an old concept from our nuclear age. This is an act of war, Zextar snarled. No, your ambush was an act of war. This is a measured response. Maya's voice hardened. Here are our terms. The Vorax will withdraw from human territory immediately. You will cease all hostile actions against our colonies, and you will sign the non-aggression pact. The real one, not whatever pretense brought us here today. Or what, human? Or my next command activates those platforms, and none of your ships leave this system. Simultaneously, similar platforms throughout Vorax space will target your primary military installations. We can't defeat your entire hegemony, but we can ensure that whoever strikes at us pays a price too high to justify the gain. The bridge fell silent as the Vorax commander processed this information. Maya could almost see the calculations running behind those alien eyes, the realization that the primitive humans had outmaneuvered them. You bluff, Zextar finally said, but without conviction. Maya smiled. Would you bet your life on that? Your ships, the future of the hegemony, because I'm prepared to bet mine on humanity's ingenuity. She turned to Lieutenant Edeyemi. Target locks on all Vorax vessels, Lieutenant. On my mark. Wait. The Vorax commander's voice had lost its arrogant edge. The hegemony will consider your terms. Maya nodded. You have 1 hour to begin withdrawal. The platforms remain active until diplomats from both our species meet on neutral ground. Not here, but at the Galactic Concord Station in the Ta City system. As the communication ended, Commander Jackson approached Maya. Captain, if I may ask, how long has this contingency been in place? Maya's eyes remained on the screen where Vorax ships were already beginning to reposition, moving away from the Resilience. Since the first colony was attacked 3 years ago. Humanity may be new to the galactic stage, Commander, but we've been fighting among ourselves for millennia. We know what happens to the unprepared. She turned to her crew, each face reflecting a mixture of relief and pride. The Vorax made a critical mistake today. They assumed technological superiority equated to absolute advantage. They forgot that sometimes the most dangerous knife isn't the one you can see. It's the one hidden up your sleeve. As the Resilience maintained position, the autonomous platforms surrounding them like an invisible shield, Maya couldn't help but reflect on humanity's peculiar place in the cosmos. Not the strongest, not the most advanced, certainly not the most unified, but perhaps the most prepared for the harsh reality that power respects only power, and that sometimes the best defense is ensuring that any potential aggressor knows exactly what they stand to lose. The counterstrike. The Galactic Concord station orbiting Ta Ceti was built for diplomacy. Its neutral ground had hosted peace treaties, trade agreements, and cultural exchanges between dozens of species for centuries. Today, it would host something unprecedented: a human delegation dictating terms to the Vorax hegemony. Captain Maya Chen stood at the viewport in the diplomatic suite, watching the stars. The past 72 hours had been a whirlwind of emergency communications, tactical repositioning, and hurried consultations with Earth's leadership. Now, she wore the formal dress uniform of the United Earth Defense Fleet, adorned with the insignia of her temporary diplomatic status. "The Vorax delegation has docked, Captain," Lieutenant Commander Park informed her, tablet in hand. "Security scans show they've adhered to the weapons restrictions. Their delegation includes Supreme Commander Zextar and 3 members of the Hegemony Council." Maya nodded. "They're taking this seriously, then." "As they should," said Ambassador Okafor, Earth's senior diplomat who had arrived via fast courier just hours earlier. The ambassador, a tall Nigerian woman with gray-streaked hair and calculating eyes, had spent decades navigating the treacherous waters of interspecies diplomacy. "Your gambit has fundamentally altered humanity's position in galactic politics, Captain. For better or worse." "For better," Maya said firmly. "The Vorax needed to understand that humanity won't be bullied or exterminated at their convenience." The ambassador's expression remained neutral. "Perhaps, but there will be consequences beyond the hegemony. Every spacefaring species is watching this confrontation closely. How we handle the next few hours will determine humanity's reputation for generations." Maya understood the subtext. The autonomous defense platforms, Project Damocles, as it had been codenamed, represented a significant escalation in humanity's defensive capabilities. The fact that we had managed to deploy them in secret throughout multiple star systems without detection by any other species had sent shockwaves through the galactic community. "It's time," said Commander Jackson, who had accompanied Maya from the Resilience. "They're waiting in the Grand Chamber." The Ta Ceti station's Grand Chamber was a circular room with a massive round table at its center. The walls were transparent, offering a 360-degree view of space, a reminder to all parties of the vastness in which their conflicts played out. Supreme Commander Zextar and the Vorax delegation already occupied one section of the table. Their scaled bodies were adorned with ceremonial armor and insignia of rank, mandibles clicking occasionally in what humans had learned to recognize as agitation. Representatives from 7 other spacefaring civilizations occupied observer positions around the periphery of the room. This confrontation had drawn significant attention. "Captain Chen," Zextar acknowledged as the human delegation took their seats, "I see you've brought reinforcements." His vertical pupils shifted to Ambassador Okafor. "As have you, Commander," Maya replied, nodding toward the Hegemony Council members. "I believe we all understand the gravity of the situation." Ambassador Okafor took the lead. "The United Earth government has authorized me to negotiate the terms of a comprehensive peace agreement between humanity and the Vorax hegemony. Before we begin, however, we require formal acknowledgement of the unprovoked aggression demonstrated at Proxima Centauri." One of the Hegemony Council members, distinguished by elaborate scarlet markings on his carapace, leaned forward. "The hegemony acknowledges no aggression. We were responding to human encroachment and technological provocations that threaten the established order." Maya couldn't help herself. "Technological provocations? You mean surviving despite your best efforts to contain us?" "Captain," Ambassador Okafor cautioned softly. The Vorax counselor's mandibles clacked rapidly. "This is precisely the problem. Humans lack the discipline and deference expected in galactic society. You are newcomers, yet you behave as equals to civilizations that achieved spaceflight when your ancestors were still living in caves." "Counselor Vexnar," Ambassador Okafor interjected smoothly. With respect, equality is not earned through longevity, but through present capability and contribution. Humanity has demonstrated both. Through deception and hidden weapons, Sextar hissed. Maya leaned forward. Through preparation against exactly the kind of betrayal you demonstrated. You invited us to peace talks while planning our execution. The chamber fell silent for a moment. The observers from other species shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps, Ambassador Okafor suggested, we should focus on the path forward rather than recriminations about the past. The reality is that both our species now stand at a crossroads. The question is whether that road leads to prolonged conflict or coexistence. One of the other Vorax counselors, older than the others with faded markings on his scales, spoke for the first time. The human defense system, this Project Damocles, how extensively is it deployed? Maya exchanged glances with Ambassador Okafor, who gave a slight nod. Extensively enough, Maya answered carefully. Every system where human colonies exist is protected. Additionally, we've placed platforms within strike range of 17 major Vorax military installations and population centers. The Vorax delegation's reaction was immediate: hisses, mandible clicking, and posturing. The older counselor raised a clawed hand, silencing his colleagues. You threatened civilian targets. No, Maya said firmly. We created a deterrent. The platforms will never be activated against civilian targets unless the hegemony initiates genocide against human settlements. They exist to ensure that the cost of aggression is too high to contemplate. Ambassador Okafor stepped in. What Captain Chen is articulating is an ancient human concept called mutually assured destruction. It prevented global war on our planet for over a century. Neither side strikes because both sides would suffer unacceptable losses. Supreme Commander Zextar's scales darkened with anger. So humanity holds a knife to the hegemony's throat and calls it peace. No, Maya countered. Humanity ensures that your knife at our throat cuts both ways. The tension in the room was palpable. The observers from other species were watching intently, recognizing that the balance of power in their sector of the galaxy was shifting before their eyes. The elderly Vorax counselor leaned back, studying the humans with what might have been newfound respect. In 15,000 cycles, the hegemony has not been forced to negotiate from a position of disadvantage. This is unprecedented. Times change, Counselor, Ambassador Okafor said gently. And perhaps that's not entirely bad. Galactic stability cannot rest solely on the dominance of established powers. It must adapt to new realities, new species, new perspectives. What are your terms? The elderly counselor asked directly. Ambassador Okafor activated a holographic display in the center of the table, a non-aggression pact, with clearly defined borders and demilitarized zones. Fair access to unclaimed resource-rich systems through a lottery system overseen by the Galactic Concord. Technology exchange programs, limited but meaningful. And most importantly, recognition of humanity's sovereign right to expand and develop within agreed parameters. The terms appeared in both human and Vorax script, rotating slowly for all to see. And the defense platforms, Zextar demanded. They remain, Maya said firmly, as do whatever secret weapons the hegemony has developed over millennia. Trust builds slowly, Commander. The platforms ensure that diplomacy has time to work. The Vorax delegation conferred among themselves, mandibles and clawed limbs moving in patterns unintelligible to human observers. Finally, the elderly counselor spoke. The terms are acceptable as a starting framework. However, we require verification protocols regarding the defense platforms and assurances that no additional systems will be deployed without notification. Ambassador Okafor nodded. We can work with that. As the formal negotiations proceeded, Maya found herself drawn into conversation with Supreme Commander Zextar during a brief recess. You surprised us, Captain, the Vorax commander admitted, mandibles clicking softly. The hegemony's intelligence assessment of human capabilities was incomplete. Maya allowed herself a small smile. A common error when dealing with humans, Commander. We're easy to underestimate. Because you appear weak. Because we appear obvious. Most species see our emotional nature, our factional politics, our technological limitations, and assume they understand us completely. They miss the underlying constants, which are that humans prepare for the worst while hoping for the best, that we learn from every mistake, ours and others, and that we will go to extraordinary lengths to protect our own. Zextar's vertical pupils narrowed. The hegemony will not forget this lesson, Captain Chen. Good, Maya replied. Neither will humanity. As the negotiations resumed, Maya watched the stars through the transparent walls of the chamber. Somewhere out there, invisible and silent, humanity's secret guardians waited, automated platforms ready to strike if diplomacy failed. They represented humanity's understanding of a harsh reality. In a galaxy of ancient powers and complex politics, sometimes peace came not from trust, but from the certainty of consequences. The Vorax had thrown a punch, confident in their superior position. They had not realized that humanity, young and seemingly vulnerable, had already placed a knife at their vital organs, not to use, but to ensure it would never be necessary. As Ambassador Okafor and the Vorax counselors hammered out the details of a new relationship between their species, Maya reflected on how quickly the galaxy was changing. Humanity had announced itself not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through strategic foresight and the willingness to take risks.